And two former California police officers were found guilty late yesterday in the beating death of Kelly Thomas. Attorneys tried to make the case to a jury that Fullerton officers Manuel Ramos and Jay Cicinelli abused their authority when they responded to a call that Thomas was breaking into cars in 2011. The officers had used a stun gun and baton to shoot and beat Thomas, a 37-year-old schizophrenic homeless man. A surveillance video in the area happened to catch the altercation on camera. By the end of the beating, Thomas's face was bloodied and disfigured. He went into a coma and died 5 days later. Ramos and Cicinelli both faced involuntary manslaughter charges in the aftermath, but after brief deliberations were ultimately acquitted. In response to the verdict, Thomas's father, Ron Thomas, had this to say.
It's carte blanche for police officers everywhere. Can beat us, chill us, whatever they want, because it has been proven right here today.
But they'll get away with it.
They'll get away with it.
He was so innocent. It just isn't fair at all. They murdered my son, and they get away with it.
And here to discuss this a little bit more, I'm joined by RT's Ramon Galindo in our LA studio. Now, Ramon, I think a lot of people are left stunned by the verdict in this case. The coroner's office said that Thomas died from damage caused by the beating by police officers, that he wasn't able to get enough oxygen because police had compressed his chest when they were beating him. That seems like very strong evidence. How did the defense argue against that?
Yeah, well, the prosecution really, their whole case surrounded this videotape and the photographs of Kelly, and really the public perception was that these police officers were going to get in trouble after seeing this tape. But the defense argued that it wasn't the beating that ultimately killed Kelly Thomas. They brought in their own expert witness saying that it was actually Kelly Thomas's drug use which weakened his heart, and that was the reason for his death. Ultimately, the defense strategy was to go after the victim himself, Kelly Thomas, and they tried to paint him as a dangerous character who had a tendency for violence, and at the end they were able to put enough doubt into the jury to where they weren't able to convict the two former police officers.
Right. And Ramon, why does it seem like it was so difficult for prosecutors to convict police officers?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very rare for a police officer to even go to trial, much less be convicted of a crime when it involves some sort of excessive force. And in this case, it was all caught on video. But we have to remember that police departments and prosecutors work hand in hand on a daily basis. So prosecutors really rely on police testimony to go after other criminals on a regular basis. So this tight relationship really makes for a situation where DAs are usually pretty reluctant to go after police officers because they know that they're going to have to rely on them for other cases.
Sure, that makes sense. Well, what's the next step here? Is there a chance for an appeal or perhaps for a separate federal trial?
Right. Well, the district attorney in Orange County, Tony Rackauckus, says that he doesn't plan to retry Ramos or Cicinelli. He respects the jury's decision, but this has a big effect on the trial of Officer Joe Wolfe. The DA is not going to go after him. He was another officer who was also charged on this. The FBI is looking into whether any sort of civil rights violations were committed during trial or at the time of the incident, but so far nothing has been announced.
And Ramon, what has the reaction been from activists who have been following this case? Should we expect to see more people coalesce around this issue going forward?
Well, sure, there has been a lot of public outcry and outcry online. We've seen days and days of protests. There's protests today, and there will be more in the days to come. Ron Thomas, since the beating happened back in 2011, has joined with anti-police brutality groups. So it does seem like people are rallying around the cause. There will be protests, but we'll see how long this lasts. We do remember that there was a ton of outcry right after the beating, which caused 3 city council members to resign and ultimately the police chief to step down at the time. So there have been some changes within the city, but it's yet, we'll have to wait and see whether this causes more of a movement to really speak out against these sort of things.
We'll have to see what the reaction will be from the community going forward and if another case is sought after. But RT's Ramon Galindo, thank you very much.
You bet.